So I'm actually really sick as hell, and if you can't tell, I'm actually at my house now, as you can tell from the set piece being completely different. So I thought in the position I'm in right now would be the best time to talk about injuries with dyspraxia. One of the more common trends in individuals who talk about dyspraxia is just how clumsy we are. And I feel like that is still understated. We as dyspraxics have probably huge issues with balance and coordination. And so we fall over things easy, we bump into things easy, and especially in a workplace, one where there's sharp objects or random countertops or hot stoves or anything nearby or around, we tend to bump into things and burn ourselves and cut ourselves and do all that stuff a lot. So, really small nicks and really small nitpicks, which are things that a lot of people can also attest to suffering too. But there's also an added layer to this as well. See, due to the added effort it takes for our brains and our bodies to commit even simple tasks, like picking things up or moving or catching things or just standing for extended periods of time, a dyspraxic becomes very easily prone to fatigue. And as such, repeated movements, especially when using the fine and gross motor skills, whether it be the hands or the arms or any sort of joint, will cause burnout and fatigue rather quickly. I'd say this is an incredibly common issue for many of us dyspraxics who work 40-hour jobs. Because, I mean, as soon as you get home, you're feeling everything. And especially in manual labor fields as opposed to office fields. And yes, office fields will make you a lot more prone to carpal tunnel as well. But it's also important to remember just how much people take for granted range of motion and just how much they can do without being fatigued. Simple things as picking something up repeatedly will start to wear on our arms so much that we may actually be more prone to muscle strain just from repeated movements. I actually have a chronic strain in my hand simply from using the drop down hose on the sink at work because it takes so much pressure. It's not even carpal tunnel, it's actually a muscle in my hand that just regularly gets strained simply because I grasp with it so much. And that's just something that tends to happen with dyspraxia. A lot of us have foot issues and need to see a podiatrist regularly because we're at jobs or in situations where we're standing so often that our feet start to wear out, and then that starts to add up to the back. Anyone who knows anything about shoes and how they affect the back will tell you. So us dyspraxics tend to also be prone to heavy fatigue as well. Another trend that I've found incredibly common in individuals with dyspraxia from just people I've talked to in forums and such, on top of me myself personally experiencing it, is irritable bowel syndrome. And I think a large part of this is just because with dyspraxia, our sense of feeling is enhanced. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the act of digestion in general is actually a really painful process that our body partakes in. And naturally, the average human body, brain actually is able to just kind of set that to the background, not even think about it, almost like breathing or blinking. And so it just kind of becomes a background process that only really hurts when you become more aware of it or when there's definitely something seriously wrong. With irritable bowel syndrome, it just seems like we feel that. And I think with the dyspraxia, it kind of plays a key part in it just because of how enhanced our sense of feel is. Although that's just a theory. There still aren't very many causes that are well known in IBS besides like bacterial overgrowth and a series of other things like gluten allergy and so on. So I'm not a doctor and I'm not claiming to know the reason for IBS or the reason why so many of us suffer IBS. Although I will say that that theory seems to hold a lot of weight. Okay. Another thing that's a common trend with dyspraxia is due to our terrible memory, we tend to forget to do very hygienic things like wash our hands, take showers, and so on. And so, because of this, we also tend to be a lot more prone to getting sick. And being sick on top of dyspraxia is just the worst thing in the world. So at the end of the day, I usually like to try to put a positive spin at the end of my videos or give some tips. There's only a few things I can really recommend. For one thing, unlike in my cannabis video where I said I wouldn't suggest cannabis use to anybody, it has been shown to help people with irritable bowel. So in that respect, I would get a high CBD strain or just pure CBD weed. You can actually pick these up for about the same price as cigarettes, and I've actually quit smoking off of these, believe it or not. These are pure hemp smokes, and what they are is they're like cigarettes, except they're filled with almost like weed, but it's that kind of weed that's only all CBD, so it's not psychoactive, and you really don't get high off of it. The only negative is you're still consuming some form of cannabis and being prone to anxiety. I still can't honestly suggest weed to just about every dyspraxic, even if they have irritable bowel, but it's an option if you do feel like the pros outweigh the cons. You may also notice that I'm almost always wearing a sweater, and very rarely do I wear short sleeves. A big part of this is comfort, but another big part of this is just because when you bump into something or you touch something hot accidentally, it's going to have to go through the sweater first before it touches your skin. And while a long sleeve shirt may help as well, a sweater is going to do you a lot more favors, and you can wear a sweater just about anywhere at any time of year without really looking suspect. I guess this is both a positive and a negative, but also being sick really often and getting hurt often also means you get a lot of time off work. That sucks if you require money to live, but at the same time, I mean, if you're in a place with universal health care, you may find that it would still benefit you because you don't have to worry about the medical bills. Fortunately, I live in the United States, so that kind of sucks. I think another big part of this is also the anxiety as well. A lot of what we feel as sickness and a lot of what ties IBS and dyspraxia together is anxiety. And I feel like anxiety can play a big part in this, and this is why I can't stress enough the support system. I like to make suggestions and I like to give tips in my videos, but I can only do so much. A licensed, properly regulated, well peer-reviewed psychiatrist or psychologist, as well as a primary care physician, can be your best chance at both mitigating injury, preventing injury, and also taking care of any injuries that come along, and giving you a lot better tips than some gas station YouTuber will give you. But at the end of the day, if this video gave you some semblance or comfort or gave you some tip or actually improved your life somewhat, then I know I did my job. And otherwise, well, thanks for watching anyway. That's all I have for this video. I know it's one of my shorter videos, but I mean, there's really not much I can really say about injuries that wouldn't really get me kicked off YouTube for gore and all that other stuff. But that's all for this video. Stay tuned for next video where I'll be talking about the similarities between autism spectrum disorder and dyspraxia and how they're not really the same thing, although they can be comorbid sometimes. And, well, have a good one, everyone.